So we will start our class on leadership. It's on page number 105, 104 in the textbook of DC Joshi textbook. Okay, the chapter is leadership, chapter 20, leadership, page number 104. In the textbook, the definition is given in the first line itself of the chapter. Leadership is defined as influence or the art or process of influencing people. Just remember, influencers, okay? Process of influencing people so that they will strive willingly and enthusiastically to toward the achievement of group goals or the organizational goals. So a leader is someone who can easily influence people to follow his direction so that the goal can be achieved. It can be the group goal, organizational goal, team goal, anything. Okay, so that's a definition. It is not the repeat class. Tini ma'am has took the chapter, but without presentation. I'm taking it with presentation, going by the textbook. Okay. So definition you do not have to learn by heart, but just understand the main area which I have put it in block. Okay, that is the art or process of influencing people to achieve the goals. That is leadership. In management, that's what we call it as leadership. Okay, leadership has various definitions along the various fields where it has to be used, but in management, especially in hospital management, we will follow this definition of influencing people to achieve the goals. Okay, next, authority and power. Okay, so I'll give you an example. You should tell me who has the power and who has the authority in this case. Okay, first we'll just read out the definitions of what do you mean by power and what is authority. Then I will give an example, and based on that example, you have to determine which character has the power and which character has the authority. Okay, so in authority and power, power can be defined as the ability of the individuals or groups to induce or influence the beliefs or actions of other person or group. Okay, you have the power to influence others decision. Okay, but what is authority? Authority is the right in a position to exercise discretion in making decisions affecting others. You have a position in your organization, and with that position comes an authority. Okay, so the example which I would like to give you is, for example, take a institution, a private institution, a factory. Okay, there is a CEO, director, everyone. Okay, these are the people in positions. Okay, so and so, somebody is a CEO, somebody is a director, and then there are employees, and among employees there is a union, employee union or trade union. Okay, so this trade union has organized a strike because of the decreased pay what the employees are receiving. Okay, so every union, every employee union will have a leader. Leader himself is the employee of the same status as the people who are participating in the strike. Okay, so this is management versus the employee. Okay, so the people, all the employees are undergoing a strike because the company is not giving them enough pay. Okay, there are CEOs, directors, and managers who are being accused of some work conditions and reduced pay. Okay, so when the negotiations take place, the directors and the CEOs will call the leader of the union. Every union will have a leader, okay, who will take it to the authorities that these are our demands and this has to be met. Okay, so and so. So in this case, who do you think is the person who has the power? And who do you think is the person who has the authority? In the chat box, you can, if you have understood my example, in the chat box, you can write. There are two characters, a trade union leader and the director. Who has the authority and who has the power? Yes, director has authority and union leader has power, because a director knows, even though he has a position in the office, but he doesn't have the power enough to influence the decision of all the employees, because if he had, the strike wouldn't be taking place in the first place. Okay, so it doesn't mean that only with authority will come the power. Okay, or only if you have power you will have the authority. Power is very independent of, even if you do not have an authority, if you, even if you do not have a job position, but if you have the power enough to influence others, maybe it is your family members, your subordinates, your classmates, your colleagues, anyone. Okay, even if two of your colleagues working in the same team, there will be one person who will exert more power over the others. Okay, so even though that person doesn't have the authority, but he has the power to induce or influence others decision. So I guess with this example, the difference between authority and power is understood. Okay, so this is the main thing here. I just want to make you understand what is the difference. If it is clear, then you can score good in the examination. Okay, so don't worry about mugging up these statements by heart. Okay, next, types of power. First is legitimate power. For example, when there are certain, for example, if you are an assistant manager, okay, um, you will have the authority, you can authorize certain things, but do you have the power to fire someone? No, right? That legitimate power will only come with a position. Okay, a position in an organization, with that position you will have some power. Okay, for example, the infection control manager will have the power to do a surprise infection control checklist, to be introduced, or he can go for a surprise visit to any ward or any department just to check the infection control practices, because he has the power to do that. Because if it was a CSSD official doing an infection control officer's duty, that is not legitimate power. Okay, legitimate power is something that your position which you are sitting in, okay, that position has authorized you to use that. Okay, that is legitimate power. Along with the job position comes certain power, that is legitimate power. Okay, next is expert power. In expert power, what happens is, um, a neurologist can make a certain decision, but can a nurse make the same decision? Okay, can a nurse make the same decision as a neurologist? In the chat box, you can answer. Can a nurse, just a staff nurse, can she make same decisions what a neurologist is supposed to make? In the chat box, you can answer. Yeah, no. True. A nurse cannot make the same decisions based on the expert knowledge of what a neurologist possesses. So I guess you understand this. Expert power means the power that comes with you along with the knowledge or along with your specialization. Okay, so that is expert power. It differs among all the specializations. Okay, how many specialization you have in your hospital, that many experts you have in your hospital, and those experts can use their expert power to guide their patients, uh, to give them options of what treatment they should undergo, to guide them what may be good for them, what is not good for them. Okay, these kind of health education comes from an expert power point of view. Okay, next, referent power. The referent power is nothing but, for example, every one of you, I guess you guys use YouTube and all, right? You must be having a favorite YouTuber, or you must be having a favorite blogger. Okay, if for example, beauty and lifestyle bloggers. Okay, if you are a young, you come from a generation who completely follows what your favorite YouTuber or a blogger is purchasing. Okay, what he or she recommends. Okay, only you will buy only that stuff. Okay, that is the kind of power which referent power means. Okay, an influential personality, brand ambassadors, okay, those are the people who use referent power, okay, to sell things. Okay, and they have followers or their fans and everyone who will just blindly follow what who will just blindly follow what they are saying. For example, in textbook, it is given the example of Rajnikant, Amitabh Bachchan. Okay, these are famous entertainment personalities, and they have a very hardcore referent power behind that success. Okay, so the same applies. For example, when it comes into a healthcare scenario, the quality standards which is used by AIMS, for example, AIMS New Delhi. Okay, all the government institution, the government medical institution will strive to follow that, because AIMS is following certain quality standards. AIMS is a government medical educational and teaching institute and research institute. Okay, so we should also follow that. Okay, so that kind of theme will be displayed. And example, the other example is when it comes to certain capital investments like nuclear medicine. Okay, in nuclear medicine, when you are going for a linear accelerator, like the two main big parties in the field of linear accelerators are Varian and Electa. Okay, when you get into the hospital environment, you have to understand the brands, okay, which are like very common brands of these capital equipments and all. Okay, so for example, Varian and Electa, if one country has even if it has a 60% market for Varian nuclear linear accelerators, okay, it is very difficult for the competing brand to come and increase their scales. Okay, because referent power works here. Okay, all the hospitals will see what kind of brand that hospital is using, because we are also going to get a nuclear medicine department done in our hospital. We will also use the same brand. Okay, maybe most of the hospitals in India, maybe I am not sure, but maybe they are using Varian, because maybe in the Indian scenario, Varian is cost effective, etc. So all the majority of hospital who's planning for a nuclear medicine department, everyone will go and give the tenders to Varian. Okay, so that's the kind of referent power which can be some examples which we can use in healthcare industry. Next, coercive power means to punish. Okay, for example, Supreme Court judges, High Court judges, okay, they have the power to punish. Okay, the legalities which follows penalties, punishment, imprisonment, everything. Okay, so that those kind of activities come under coercive power. Even in dictatorship, or if you are in a country where monarchs rule, okay, so they have some coercive power, the power to punish. Next is reward power. Okay, the CEO or the director will decide what will be the percent of bonus per employee should get this year, depending on their performance or depending on the profits which your institution made that year, depending of the external factors like the economy going on in your country. Okay, so depending on all these factors, the top management will decide what kind of bonus should be given, who should be promoted, who should not be promoted. Okay, what kind of extra incentives we can give to our employee. Okay, so these are the reward power. This comes under reward power, where you can give someone incentive based on their performance. Next is subordinates power. For example, the best example is trade union or employee union within a institution. Okay, if an institution has usually private sector organization, they will try their best to see that no trade unions or employee unions are formed in their organization, because if at all there a trade union comes into play or an employee union comes into play, what happens is, because of the presence of such sub organizations within an organization, subordinate power will slowly rise. Okay, earlier all the top decision was made by the top management. Okay, usually they will not try to involve, usually not in all cases, but usually the top management will try not to include the subordinates in major decision making. But if at all there is a trade union or employee union, they can't do that. They have to consider the opinions and how the big decision is going to affect their employees, etc. Okay, so that is the kind of subordinates power, what the subordinates and the employer, what kind of power they have over their top management. Okay, so these are the different types of power. I guess you're clear in this. Just read about it. Techniques of influencing. Lead by example. Simply saying, if you want to get something done by your subordinate, you can't, for example, you want your subordinates to be on time. Okay, by 9 o'clock sharp, you want your all employees to reach your organization on time, except for some emergencies. Okay, otherwise you want them to be present in the office on time. Okay, you have to lead by example. You also have to come on time. It doesn't mean that just because you are the boss, you are the manager, you can come at 11, 12, but you want others to come at 9. That's not done. Okay, so you have to, whatever you require your employees to do, you want to do it yourself also. You have to do it yourself also. That is lead by example. Second is lead by values. It's just basic. Respect your subordinates, be kind to them, be empathetic to their situation. Okay, so that is lead by values. Okay, have a kind environment. Create a kind employee or working environment for your subordinates and employees. Assertiveness. Make sure your subordinates know what you want from them. Okay, it's not like they are just throwing arrows in the air. Okay, it should be like what each and every step what they do in the organization, they should know what should be the outcome and how that outcome is going to affect my manager. Okay, that is assertiveness. Make sure you communicate this to your subordinates what you want from them. By the end of this month, I want your department to achieve this and so goals. By the end of this year, I want your department to increase your profit by this percent. Okay, that is called being assertive. Okay, don't give them vague goals, give them the goals which they can complete. Okay, rationality. Whatever goals you give them, it should be logical. From the past 10 years, there was a steady profit in your organization, the profit of 30%, for example. Okay. Suddenly you can't come and say within 6 months we want 50% of profit of the past 10 years. Okay, you can't beat that. Okay, you whatever goals you're setting for your subordinates, for your employees, everything should be rational, should be logical. The goals and the directions the guidance which you give to your employees, that should be logical. Exchange. Employees work for salary, that at the end of the goal there should be something beneficial for your employees also. Exchange. Okay, for example, telling them, okay, by this year end, if your department is going to bring the maximum number of profit, each one of you will get 10% increase in your regular bonus. Okay, that is an example of exchange. Okay, you like kind of like bribing them with some incentive so that they outperform themselves every time. Okay, so that is exchange. Ingratiation. Ingratiation means in the starting of your employee employer relationship, okay, be friendly, don't be rude, and don't come across as very headstrong person and someone who cannot be friendly, or someone who can't sympathize with us, doesn't have any empathy. We don't want to work under such a person. Okay, don't bring out that kind of personality at the start of your employee employer relationship. Okay, if you want things to be done in a certain way, it's always the best option to start with a good friendship with your employees. Okay, that is ingratiation. Sometimes in the exam it will come, the meaning of ingratiation which is given: before making a demand, act in a friendly manner. Okay, in question can be formed like that: before making a demand, act in a friendly manner. Okay, what is the term used to describe this? Ingratiation, assertiveness, rationality, etc. So you have to in the MCQ question you have to select ingratiation. Okay, so such kind of questions will be formed from these all areas. Okay, so understand the meaning of each of this and what they have been, how they have been described in the textbook. Coalition means coming together. Okay, usually you can see it in political scenarios and all, different parties coming together, for all the oppositions coming together. Okay, that's an example of coalition. Means each opposition party has their own leaders, but all the leaders of that opposition party will come together. At the end, means the party members also have to come together. So that's a very good example of coalition. So the same thing will happen in your hospital also. For example, if you want to conduct a national level seminar in your national conference in your hospital, okay, leaders of all the department will come together. Okay, leaders of all the department will be involved in this national seminar. Each department will do small studies in their own department, and they would like that to be presented in the national seminar which the hospital is going to conduct. Okay, so that is an example of coalition, everyone coming together, leaders coming together, and along with the leaders, that their team will also come together and work in synergy. Kidding and joking, it's very easy. Everyone wants a leader or a boss or a manager or your superior who is like, who has a good sense of humor, who jokes around, who is not always too serious, just calm se calm. Okay, not like that. Okay, because once you see the humor side of your superior, you also try to think of him as a human, and you will also think of him as someone down to earth. You will want to work for that kind of leaders. Okay, so that is these are the techniques of influencing. Next is skills of effective leaders. Adaptability. For example, ups and downs will come in any given situation. The leader should be ready to receive it as it is. That is adaptability. Establishes a direction. In that demands high standards of performance from all the employees. Each of your team members, you deserve them to outperform, you deserve from them to outperform themselves in all the tasks given. So that is establish a direction. Maintains a social presence. A leader is someone who, when enters a room, you should know, like, okay, my superior is here, I should not be kidding too much, I should behave myself. Okay, that's the kind of social presence a true leader demands. For example, a function is going on in college, in hospital, anywhere. Okay, but when the principal walks in, but when the directors or the top management people walk in, you will notice all the students and all the staff, they will be like very chill, like they will maintain themselves, they will, who are like who are being reckless, they will try not to be that reckless, etc. Okay, so that's the kind of social presence a leader demands. Emotional support, needless to say, you should be empathetic with the situations of your employees. Okay, you should understand what their needs are, try to cater to their needs. Okay, those will come under emotional support. Gives feedbacks and also accepts feedback. Okay, sometimes when the leader will also be wrong in some cases. In that case, the leader should be like accepting the feedback from others. Okay, I did wrong, uh, next time I will not do the same. Okay, so that is gives feedback and also accepts feedback. Recovers quickly from shock and crisis. If something went wrong, uh, couldn't the department couldn't achieve their goals, that's okay, next time we will do that, but he or she will not dwell in the past. Okay, something went wrong, we learned something from that particular situation, and we take that knowledge with us and we will move forward. We will not always keep looking back at that situation and be like always thinking and always being grudgy about that particular bad incident. Okay, recover quickly from all the shock and crisis which you had seen or experienced. A strong customer orientation. A strong and effective leader should know what their customer requires. Customers feedback is always a priority for an effective leader. Okay, plays a role of a servant leader. Can anybody tell me what will be the meaning of servant leader? What do you understand by the term servant leader? Plays the role of servant leader. Anyone? In your own words. No one? ready to work kind of. Basically, servant leader is something, a person whose goal, yeah, who will take care of the grassroots employees. Yeah, kind of. Somebody, not just the grassroots employees, a servant leader is someone who puts their employees' needs first. Okay, rather than his selfishness, a servant leader will try to put the employees' needs first over his personal desires. For example, if the top management has given your manager an option, if a task is done, okay, either your manager will get a hike in salary, or the entire team will receive some incentive. Okay, a servant leader, what he will decide is, let my entire team get the incentive. Okay, I'm happy with what I'm earning, but it was a team effort which because of which we completed the task. Okay, so let the entire team have the benefit of that. Okay, that's what a servant leader will choose. Okay, puts the employee's needs before his personal desire. So that's playing a role of servant leader. Owns responsibility for all the failures of the team. Okay, he will not be like blaming the team in their personal space. The leader can say, okay, what you did was wrong, what you did was wrong. Okay, this is the area where we should have done something better or something like that. But when it comes to representing your team in a public platform, a effective leader will take the responsibility of all the losses also. He will not just uh, throw his employees and the team under the bus and be saved away. Okay, he will not do that. So that's a responsible leader. Comes in forefront to fight for the cause of group members. It's understand, you can understand that from the statement. Okay, if something is hurting your group member, or somebody is talking ill about your group members, the leader will not sit and tag along and gossip with that. Okay, if something is wrong, if he or she finds something is wrong being conducted towards your member, a group member, you come in front to fight for your employees. Okay, you don't hide behind and let your employees deal with that. Okay, so these are the some skills of effective leaders. Leadership styles. The first style is democratic leadership style. It's also called as participative style. So some questions can come, what is the other name of participative style leadership? Okay, so you should understand, it will be democratic. Some other options will also be given, democratic, autocratic, etc. So in such cases, you should know what are the other names of certain leadership styles, etc. So such questions can be found. Okay, so democratic leadership style. Okay, in what happens in this leadership is, the leader will not just give a task and sit behind and let the employees run here and then to complete the task. In a democratic leadership style, the leader himself is the participant in the task. By position, he or she is the leader, but when it comes to work, he is an equal participant. Okay, he will also do the work along with his employee to get things done. He will not just sit in an AC cabin and let the employees run along in the heat or in the field. Okay, so that's a democratic leadership. Next is autocratic style. Autocratic style, usually with the name, people may be like it is very dictatorial kind of leadership style, but it is required in some areas. For example, in military, in army and all, in emergency and in disaster management, you require someone who is autocratic, who will just command and you have to follow that particular command without answering anything back, because he or she will be an expert in that area. For example, a general in command in an army, a major general or captain. Okay, he or she will be an expert in war tactics, etc. Okay, so with one command, the soldiers has to fall behind that command and just follow what the captain has said, because it comes from an expert power. The directions come from an expert power. So that's an autocratic style of leadership. Not all the time the autocratic style of leadership is bad. Sometimes it goes bad, really bad. in case of Hitler. Okay, that was an autocratic kind of leadership. It was terribly bad. But in some areas, you require that kind of leadership. When it comes in a hospital scenario, the example is given disaster management. Okay, in an emergency department, disaster management, you require an autocratic leader. Leadership grid. In your textbook, in page number 106, figure is given of a leadership grid. Okay, in the x-axis, it is concerned for production, and in y-axis, it is concerned for people. Okay, and there are corners of this grid. There are four corners and one center. All these corners and the center are important in different kind of settings. For example, the top left corner, where the concern for the people, the concern for the team members is very high for certain leaders. They don't care much about the production. What is the production? What is the profit, etc. They don't care much about the production and profit, but they care a lot about their employees, etc. Okay. For example, a company like Rolls-Royce, okay, they manufacture high-end cars and all, luxury cars and all. Okay, so their production level is quite low. Okay, they don't mass produce the cars year after year. Okay, but the employee relationship, if somebody gets a job in a Rolls-Royce company, they are like set for their life. Okay, so that's how the company takes care of them. So that's one example of high concern for people, but very low concern for production. Okay, then comes the other extreme, that is the bottom right corner, where the leader will only think about what is being produced. The leader will not bother much about the working conditions of the people. Okay, for example, in olden days, gold mines or coal mines and all. Okay, that's one example. The working condition, how working in the gold mines and coal mines is going to affect the health of their employees. Nobody bothered about that. Now it is serious. Now we have an occupational safety and health hazard. It comes under, like, if somebody is injured under a gold mine or something, it comes under occupational safety hazard and all. So nowadays we do have policies to safeguard the health and the working conditions of people working in such areas. But in olden times, it was not like that. Only the value for production was given, but very less value for the working condition, the mental status, the emotional health, physical health of the employees is given. Okay, so that is a leadership grid. You can read about that in the textbook. You can just understand the figure. What is just two main things: concern for production and concern for people. These are the two main things which will form a leadership grid. Okay. Next is situational model. So what happens in situational model? It's the easiest of all. Okay, this kind of leaders will have the traits of the democratic leader and autocratic leader, everything. Okay, when the situation demands, for example, it's the financial year end, April, May, all the leaders or the department heads, all the department heads in the financial department, accounts department, they will be very autocratic during that time of the year, in the month of April and all. Okay, in the month of March, by March 31, all the income tax, everything should be filed. All the accounts department is most busy during the year end, financial year end time. Okay, so that is the March month. Most of the leaders you will find showing autocratic traits in that area. Other rest of the years, they will be more chill, they will be more relaxed, they will be working along with their employees. Okay, kind of democratic. Okay, so that is a situational model. What the situation demands, the kind of leadership style you should choose. Okay, so that is situational. Charismatic style. For example, if I say do boond zindagi ki, okay, who is the personality that comes into your mind when we hear this statement, do boond zindagi ki? Anyone in the chat box who can answer? Yeah, AB. There are two ABs, I guess. When you hear do boond zindagi ki, Others also may put the full form of AB. No one? No one remembers this campaign? Yeah, Amitabh Bachchan. So that's the impact you have. Okay, that's the kind of charismatic leadership which came along with that campaign. Okay, the charisma, um, the personality that your leader attracts. Okay, that's how we can define a charismatic leadership. Okay, the charm that they use to make people do certain things in their way. Okay, that's a charismatic leadership. If you're a fan of someone, you just blindly follow whatever they have said, and you identify the goal with them. The main thing in a charismatic style is you identify the goal with the leader. Okay, so that is charismatic style. Free rein style, it's kind of complicated. For example, you say this kind of leaders are the most cunning. Okay, they will show you that you have the complete creative authority of doing things. You can do things as you like, but at the end, when the final decision making comes, it's only their decision that matters. Okay, if for example, a new department has to be brought in your hospital. Okay, the free rein style leader will make a conference of including all the department heads, their teammates, the assistant managers. Everyone will be invited for this conference. They will have a discussion and meeting. They will do brainstorming. Or everyone's opinions will be taken into consideration. But in most of the case, the free rein style leader has already made the decision. Whatever they say, I am going to bring the department. I will give my own reasons and everything. I will make I will bring this new department in the hospital. They have made up their mind, but just for the show, they have put on a show of making sure that everyone's opinion has been taken care of. Okay, but at the end, the leadership, what the free rein leader has decided, only that will take place. Okay, so that's a free rein style. You make to see, obviously you will consider in some case the opinions of the employees are also considered, and some decisions based on such cases are also taken. But most common cases, they have already made the decision, but they will make it like, okay, you were involved in the decision making process. Okay, so that's a free rein style of leadership. Management by walking around. If at all you are working in a hospital, you would know all the infection control managers, they can't take care of the infection control policies and procedures if they just sit in the cabin or in their office. Okay, if you want the infection control protocols to be put into action, you should be a manager who would be walking around. Same goes for quality management also. You can't control the quality of the hospital just by sitting in a cabin or office. You have to be on your feet all day long. Go to each department, see all the procedures and protocols according to the third party accreditation procedures and protocols. Is it being followed or not? Okay, so that is management by walking around. Some things you can get it done by just sitting in an office, but things like this, mostly in a hospital or healthcare setting, you can't get the things done just by sitting in an office. You have to get continuous information on daily basis, because that is why the management which is done based on checklist, daily checklist, that is the best example for management by walking around. Okay, you can't put things into the checklist. You can't take information into the checklist just by sitting in the cabin. You have to go to each and every department, see all the protocols, procedures being maintained or not. Take that information on daily basis and put it into a statement. So that is management by walking around. So I guess with this, you have understood what leadership is. Hospital outbreak management, page number 11, for infection control students, infection control management students. So outbreak, the things which I have marked in bold, please understand that that's more than enough here. So when do you say there's an outbreak? When there is an occurrence of two or more similar cases relating to the place and time in the same place along the same time, there are two or more similar cases, then you will say there is a chance of an outbreak or cluster. Okay, cluster is another name of outbreak. So this needs investigation to discover the route of transmission, because if there is an outbreak, you know, as you speak, it is going to be transmitted. So the first thing you should know is how it is being transmitted. Is it an airborne disease, or is it via contact, or any other source of transmission? Okay, so you have to understand the route of transmission so that accordingly you can take specific precaution methods for infection and possible sources of infection in order to apply preventive methods. Okay, so outbreak can take place in two forms. Either it is a steady increase or it is a large number of cases. Okay, if it is a steady increase in cases, you can understand there is an incubation period going on. Okay, means what? It is a person to person spread. Steady increase means person to person. If the first person was admitted, after few days second person got admitted with the similar symptoms, signs and symptoms, and after this around the same interval of time the third person is getting infected. So in this case you will understand it's a person to person spread. Okay, when it's a large number of cases, within 2 days you are seeing 50 to more than 50 cases with the same signs and symptoms, means there is a shared exposure. There is one source of infection that has infected everyone at the same time. For example, food poisoning or any infection that is spreading by any water bodies. Okay, so that's an example of shared exposure. So that's a common source outbreak. So these are the two types of outbreaks: steady increase in cases and large number of cases. So step one. First is recognition of an outbreak. Here you have to understand, is there an increase in the number of cases of a particular infection at rise or not? Okay, if yes, like what are the possible indications of an outbreak? What is the time gap between the first two admission? Okay, if at all there is a time gap, then you will do a primary investigation. What you will do here is you will collect the blood, the swab from all the nose swab, throat swab, etc. You will collect the swab, send it to the laboratory from all the patients who is suffering from the same signs and symptoms. Okay, and then when the results come, you have to check if is it the same kind of pathogen, same strain of pathogen which has infected all these patients or not. Okay, if it is the same pathogen, you can confirm it's an outbreak. Okay, next, determine the magnitude of the problem, means how many people are suffering from this. Okay, immediate. So accordingly, you can say if within 3 days you got more than 50 cases, for example, the magnitude is quite high. So whatever, you can't wait till more investigation. You have to take immediate steps, immediate preventive steps you have to take. Okay, that should be a general preventive step because you don't know the route of transmission yet. Okay, once you get to know the route of transmission, then specific control methods can be applied. But you if the magnitude is quite high, okay, within few days, within a span of few days, you are seeing n number of cases coming. Okay, in such case, you can't wait to understand the route of transmission. Immediate measures has to be taken. Then verification of diagnosis. In that, a case definition is given. Okay, for example, the coronavirus which we are facing now, the COVID-19 virus, that is a kind of that comes from the same family of the SARS virus. Okay, so verification of diagnosis, what it means is, if somebody is coming with a bacterial infection and viral infection, they can't be under the same outbreak management. Okay, the viral infection, you are seeing a lot of viral infection coming up, that will be coming under the same case definition, but not the bacterial infection. If at all, along your outbreak, when you're doing your outbreak management, at the same time you're seeing some bacterial infection, Okay, you will not consider them under your outbreak cases. They will be given their separate treatment. Okay, so that is verification of diagnosis. Next is confirmation of outbreak. When you see, you have to kind of compare the endemic rate of diseases to the outbreak rate. For example, endemic rate means what? In states like some certain southern states where you witness a lot of rainfall, tropical areas, okay, where you witness a lot of rainfall and a lot of humidity, vector-borne diseases are very common, like malaria, dengue, chikungunya, and all. Okay, so you have an endemic rate every year. You are seeing an endemic rate of malaria. For example, it is 100 patients per month for malaria, but in this outbreak, you saw around 200 cases in a month. Okay, so what happens here is the outbreaks rate is much higher than the endemic rate. In this case, you can confirm there is an outbreak. Okay, if the cases you are managing is higher than the usual endemic cases which you manage, okay, in this case you have to confirm a outbreak. Next is step 2. When you confirm an outbreak, notify and involve appropriate departments, personnel, and hospital administration. When you confirm an outbreak, legal institutions like the extensions of the health ministries present in your locality, the municipal health these things and everything. Usually, every district will have an extension of the health ministry working. Okay, the nearby law enforcement, everyone has to be informed, because if the outbreak is airborne and all, you require the help of law enforcement also to get it under control. Okay, because you are initiating a statewide quarantine or a district-wide quarantine. In such cases, law enforcement will come into play. So you have to notify the appropriate departments, personnel, obviously the hospital administration. Next is a step 3. For additional cases, clinical and microbiological records should be maintained. Or the microbiological study, the lab reports and everything for each and every cases which came, take a copy of that and do studies on that. Line listing each and every patient along with their details, the time when they started to show the signs and symptoms, the time when they got admitted, when the treatment was initiated. Okay, for each patient, their patient details, name, where they are from, their place, their address, from since how many days they are facing the signs and symptoms, everything will be jotted down in a tabular form, in a table. Everything will be jotted down, patient after patient. So that is called line listing. Okay, you will have a list of patient who is suffering from the same signs and symptoms, whom you suspect to be infected by this outbreak. And develop an epidemic curve. Epidemic curve is something like this. The y-axis will have the number of cases, and then the time will be on the x-axis. If you Google pandemic curve of COVID-19, you can see that it's like in a wave form. Okay, some months we saw a peak rise in COVID cases, then it fell down. Again, we saw a peak rise, it fell down. Okay, so that is called an epidemic curve. In case of coronavirus, it is a pandemic curve. Okay, then you formulate a hypothesis. Even at this page or at this place also, you are not able to understand the route of transmission. So you will formulate a hypothesis. For example, when the coronavirus initially broke out, okay, it was giving flu-like symptoms. Everyone was having running nose, body pain, coughing and sneezing. Okay, usually the things that is affecting your respiratory system. Okay, so in that case, the officials will make a hypothesis that this may be an airborne transmission. Okay, this is an airborne transmission, and it's a person-to-person contact-based transmission. So that's a hypothesis. Okay, even before confirming, you make an assumption, that is called formulating an hypothesis, and based on that assumption, you will do your further microbiological investigations, etc., to prove that assumption. Okay, so that is formulating a hypothesis. Then you will do microbiological investigations accordingly. If it is an airborne disease, take all the swabs from the nose, throat area, do the sputum test, everything for the patients, okay, accordingly. And if it is other waterborne diseases and all foodborne diseases, stool sampling has to be done. So it depends upon the signs and symptoms or the disease which the patient is suffering from. Accordingly, microbiological investigations are done. Then testing the hypothesis using case control study, cohort study, microbiological study. Those who have done some basics in research, they will understand. Others, I don't think so. They will know what is case study, case control study, cohort study. The main thing is in case control study, you already have the disease. Okay. For example, cancer, lung cancer patients. Okay. You take a group of lung cancer patients and you interrogate them. How did they get cancer? Were they smokers? Okay. There will be, not all smokers will have lung cancer. Not all lung cancer patients are smokers. Okay. So that's the kind of research you do. You already have patients with disease. With disease, you already have patient, and you do a retrospective interrogation. Okay, you go into their past to see what may have led them into this disease. That is case control study. Cohort study means what? You start with healthy individuals. You take 50 healthy individuals, half of them may be smokers, half of them are non-smokers. You follow them for around 10 to 20 years at the time, and you find out from smokers, half of the smokers, you find out who has developed lung cancer, who has not developed lung cancer. Okay, so that is cohort study. You start with healthy individuals. In case control study, you already have diseased individuals. You go behind. Okay, you go in a retrospective motion, interrogative motion. Okay, so this is a case control is a retrospective study, cohort is a prospective study. You go forward with your healthy people to see how they respond to the exposure. In microbiological studies, studying the laboratory reports and everything. So don't worry much about case control and cohort study, just understand the name of it. For this outbreak management, the meaning and everything is not given in the textbook, so don't worry about that. Just for your knowledge, I have explained in brief. In step 4, implement. Now, after formulating the hypothesis, you did your investigations accordingly. You did your case control or cohort study. That will take a long time, but going behind the microbiological study is the best way forward to manage a outbreak. Okay, so the hypothesis has been proved. Route of transmission is known. Now you will implement specific control measures. Okay, for example, the route of transmission for AIDS is not the same as for coronavirus. Okay, COVID-19, and it's quite different. So just by giving you these 2 examples, you can understand how specific control measures has to be taken. Okay, it is based on specific control measures is based on the route of transmission. For example, when it comes to COVID-19, the specific control measures is to protect your respiratory system foremost and your hands, because it is contact based and airborne based. Okay, so specific control measures has to be followed here. Then monitor for further cases and effectiveness of control measures. Now you have put your control measures, but is it working? Okay, you are doing your hand washing, you're sanitizing everything, you're cleaning your hospital 3 to 4 times a day. Everyone is having an N95 mask, they're wearing PP, everything. Okay, now after doing all this, are your cases coming down? Is it coming down or is it still going up? Okay, so if it is still going up, there is some minus marks in your effectiveness of control measures. Okay, either your staffs are not doing their work by protocol, or the control measures which you have selected to contain the outbreak is not effective enough. You have to do something more, or the route of transmission which you assumed was wrong. Okay, so monitor the further cases and effectiveness of your control measures. Then prepare a report for your hospital infection control committee regularly on weekly basis. This report has to be given weekly basis. Hospital infection control committee meetings will be held. Involve all the departments of the administration, needless to say. Then that was a step 4, and that will usually cover all the outbreak management which we did. Now intermediate control measures. Okay, what comes under intermediate control measures, or you can also say it as general control measures. Okay, so strict hand washing, intensification, these are the things which everyone can do at their home also. Okay, intensification of environmental cleaning and hygiene, regularly cleaning at least housekeeping staffs if the isolation warden extra is there. Housekeeping staff have to clean the isolation ward at least 3 times a day when the outbreak is going on. Adherence to aseptic protocols, strengthening the disinfection and sterilization. Okay, so these are the general measures which can be used in the hospital. That microbiological study, what it will involve: cultures from the other body types of the patient, all the swabs which you take from other body types of other patients, cultures from staff, cultures from the environment. So these are from these all different areas, the cultures has to be taken, sent to the laboratory. The reports of the microbiology study microbiological study has to be recorded, and accordingly you have to take the next step, that is specific control measures. This needs to be instituted on daily basis of the nature of agent and characteristics of the high risk group and possible sources. When COVID-19 outbreak did take place, the people at risk were senior citizens and children. Okay, that was understood. So you understand who are the people at high risk and what are the possible sources. Possible sources usually the initial phases were the people who were international travelers, etc. Okay, so in those areas, restriction on movement of kids, like the kids who were below 12 year old, they were not allowed to leave the house when the initial lockdown phase was going on, and all. The senior citizens were not allowed to go out of their house. Okay, so these were the specific control measures which was done. Hand washing, sanitizing, hand hygiene, wearing masks, that is general for everyone. But what was the specific control measures which you took? Okay, so these are the examples of some specific control measures which we have recently witnessed. Okay, so these measures may include identification and elimination of contaminated product. For example, smallpox, if you remember, smallpox is one disease that has been like eradicated. Why? Because now that the pathogen is not here, because not because of the regularly scheduled immunization and everything. Now we don't see cases of smallpox because successfully it is eliminated. So the first main thing is identify what is the pathogen and eliminate it if possible. If it is not possible to eliminate the virus, for example, COVID virus is still going on, it is not been eliminated, modification of nursing procedure. Okay, nowadays the nursing staffs who are like pregnant, they will not be posted for the COVID-19 wards and all. Okay, so such modifications came into play. And identification and treatment of carriers. Now treatment is going on. We have vaccines and all specific control measure based treatment is going on. Now we know what is the exact strain of the virus. In recent news, we are seeing the different strains of the same virus. Okay, so that is going on. We are in this phase. Rectification of lapse in clinical technique or procedure. Somewhere where for example, if it was a hospital environment, while dealing with a dead body of an infected patient, okay, proper protocols were not followed, okay, and it affected the staff. Okay, so these are all the examples of some lapses. So you have to make sure such mistakes will not occur in the future. That is rectification of any lapse in the clinical technique or procedure. So this is a very small topic. It's a bit of dry, but I guess reading it 2 to 3 times, you will understand the step, what comes after what are the specific control measures, what goes for the microbiological studies, and what are the general control measures or the immediate control measures. Okay, so just read through this topic 2 to 3 times, you will understand. Evaluation of the efficacy of control measures. Whatever control measures you are taking in the initial phases, you have to make sure that it is working. Okay, if it is not working, it should not be too late to change the control measures. That is the reason of it. Should be evaluated by continued follow-up of cases after outbreak. Even after taking vaccination, do you have any side effects? How many people from among 1,000 or how many people among lakhs are having severe side effects and all. So these all comes under the evaluation phase. Measures are clinically effective if the cases cease to occur. Very important. Whatever control measures you have took, you can say it is effective only if the cases stop occurring. Okay, if the cases is still on rise, it is continuing, something is wrong. Outbreak should be documented and the records should be kept with the hospital infection control committee and presented at the hospital infection control meetings. All the records should be documented and kept and should be presented. Any doubt in outbreak management? So no doubts, then we'll move to the next topic, same for infection control. Okay. In the same textbook, go to page number 177. Dietary and kitchen services, hygiene and infection control in a hospital kitchen management. So the food establishments are the area like which can lead to a lot of outbreaks, as we discussed in the previous topic. Okay, lot of foodborne diseases and everything. The kitchens are the areas at risk for transmitting this. So the first and foremost things which we require here is daily inspection. Okay, hospital infection control officer, or they will have their own food supervisor. Title departments will have that. If it's a tertiary care hospital or it's a class level 3 class 3 kitchen service, okay, they will have an appointed food supervisor. He or she has to take care of the daily inspections in the kitchen services. There are certain areas where certain checklist has to be followed. Those checklists I will show you at the end of the slideshow. Okay, the checklist is not given in the textbook. You can take a screenshot. If you are using a mobile, you can take a screenshot, or you can take a snapshot of your desktop if you are using a PC or laptop. Okay, at the end of the slides I will show you certain this thing. So it will not be asked for examination. The checklist will not be asked for examination, but just for your information, you can study, read, but what are the things which comes into play on regular inspection for kitchen services and dietary departments. So daily inspection should be done. Everyone who handles, prepares, processes, or distributes food, they must understand the basic hygiene techniques, food hygiene they have to follow, and they have to be trained personnel and catering staff. And when it is staff's hygiene and health, it should be monitored regularly. Before you employ anyone into the kitchen, okay, pre-employment health checkup is done, which includes especially stool examination, past history of any enteric fever, any gastrointestinal related fever. Okay, so to rule out if there are the carriers or not. Okay, if at all they are a carrier for certain diseases, you do not employ them in the kitchen area at any cost. So food handlers with infectious disease must stop working immediately. They should go on a medical leave. Okay, when they are back from the medical leave, they have to certify their fitness. Okay, the fitness will be certified by a communicable disease officer. Okay, the communicable disease officer will certify the fitness after any infectious diseases of the food handlers. Then only they can rejoin their job. Okay, and routine medical checkup has to be done at least twice a year. Quarterly and year is preferable, but at least twice a year routine medical checkup for all the food handlers and the staff in the dietary kitchen department has to be done. And the reports of these medical checkups and previous history, everything should be well documented. And the food safety officer will be in charge of these reports. If not, if the hospital doesn't have a food safety officer, it will be under the in chargeship of infection control officers. So in the kitchen, cleaning procedure should be on regular basis, okay, without delay. Proper schedule should also be there. At what time in the evening, morning, and all cleaning should be done. Okay, according to that schedule, they have to follow the cleaning procedures. And food storage, it should be in a clean, uncluttered area. Okay, do not store your food in dingy areas. Okay, where there may be humidity and it can possibly rot your food, etc. Okay, and good access of cleaning. It should be not small tiny areas where your hands can't reach. Okay, it should be quite large enough areas where you can easily access the shelf, clean them out. Okay, shelves should be easy to clean. Any food that is capable of supporting any microbial growth always should be stored below 8 degrees Celsius or above 65 degrees Celsius. Okay. For example, milk and all, and usually not the dry foods, but the wet foods, okay, capable of microbial growth or getting like possible to rot soon. Those should be stored in certain temperature, either below 8 degrees Celsius or above 65 degrees Celsius. Okay, the food should be cooked and chilled. Cooked food and chilled food should be below 3 degrees Celsius. If it is raw, just below 8 degrees Celsius, but if it is cooked, below 3 degrees Celsius. Cleaning schedule should be followed. Food should be prepared half an hour before service, and it should be stored in the bain-marie. You must have seen bain-marie, that stainless steel trolleys are there in which they carry the food, the curries, the rice, and everything. They carry it in that. They will go to the ward and they will distribute it. Okay, and if you go to some a hotel or somewhere where you see a buffet system, okay, there also a bain-marie is used. It's basically a stainless steel trolley like a compartment. Okay, so trolley should be used for transport of food, and it should be cleaned regularly. And storage, dry ingredients should be cleaned before you store them in plastic bins, like removing the stones from the cereals, pulses, and everything. And green leafy vegetables and other vegetables should be stored in the refrigerator and washed before use. Do not wash these things and then store, otherwise it may rot fast. Okay, so the raw items should be stored in the refrigerator, and just before use they can be washed properly. Milk should be purchased on daily basis, and it should be stored at 8 degrees Celsius. Potatoes, onions, fruits should be stored in plastic trays. It should not be in closed container. And other vegetables should be brought at interval of 3 days. It depends upon, like here we have shown 3 days, but it depends upon the requirement of hospital. Okay, if it is a tertiary care hospital and all, weekly, twice or thrice you may have to visit to your wholesalers for these things. Next, waste disposal. Identify and collected in color-coded containers. Even in title department, you will have the biomedical waste management, the color codes and everything. Leftovers should be sent for disposal through municipal authorities. If at all you have a compost system in your hospital, you have certain gardens or vegetable gardens or fruit gardens, okay, you can install a compost system where leftovers can be like raw leftovers, not the cooked ones. Raw leftovers can be sent into compost system, and it can be reused, recycled, and used for the hospital's vegetable garden, etc. Okay, it depends upon what facilities your hospital has. So this is the example of a checklist. If at all you have, you can take screenshot. If it is too small, I will be reading out all these, some of the important points. Okay, so I know that the font is quite small, but it is a picture. We can't do anything on that. So if you can take a screenshot of this, it will be good. Just for your reference, questions will not be asked from this checklist, but just for your understanding, you should know what are the important areas within personal management and the environment management within a kitchen. You should check. Okay, so this checklist is not on daily basis. It is on a quarterly basis. 4 times a year, an officer, infection control officer or a food supervisor can come and do this checklist. So clothing should be clean, neat, untorn, and appropriate for work. Shoes should have closed toes, closed heels, and safety soles. Safety soles, so that kitchen is an area you are prone to falls due to slips and everything. Okay, if there is an oil spillage or water spillage, the staffs are prone to slips and falls. So safety shoes with safety soles should be there. Socks should be also worn. Hair nets compulsory, caps are worn. Hair is generally covered. Aprons should be worn and changed immediately when it is soiled. No jewelry except a wristwatch, wedding band, and some earring. Okay, so good personal hygiene is practiced. No nail polish should be worn. Strict hand washing procedures is practiced here. I will check with Pawan sir if this checklist can be emailed. I will check with him because it is not in the textbook, so we can't say, but just for your understanding, I want you guys to know what are the important areas which, as a infection control officer, if you are not the food safety officer, but even as an infection control officer, um, yeah, yeah, Dr. Charu, please to remind me, please contact me for this so I can help you out, so I can send you the checklist. Okay. Yeah, food is handled in such a way to avoid contact. Dishes are transported by the methods to avoid contact with food handlers' clothing. Gum chewing, chewing gum, and toothpicks, use of toothpicks, use of nose stuff, smoking, especially not permitted in food areas. Eating and drinking are done outside the food preparation area, because the lunch will staff will also go for lunch and everything. No, they should not be having their personal lunch time within the dietary department. It should be done in a separate area. Injuries and suspected infections are reported immediately, so action may be taken. Health requirements of food handlers are met. Health screening is conducted prior to hiring at identified intervals. Okay. Orientation received by each employee includes thorough instruction of infection control. Infection control in-service program is attended by each employee. As a manager of a dietary department, dietary department, even like you can't take all the staff together for a infection control in-service program. Okay, because then who will manage the kitchen? Okay, so part by part, you will take 5 staffs today, this week, 5 staffs next week. Okay, in such cases, make sure each and every one of the staff has attended, even if some staff was scheduled to attend your infection control program, in service program, but he or she was absent on that particular day. Make sure in the next schedule he or she is present or not. Okay, so make sure each and every one of your dietary employee undergoes infection control in service program. So next is, that was about the personal. Now in the food preparation area, what all 8 things you have to take care of. Utensils and equipment used to prepare and serve food. Okay, direct use of hands should be avoided while handling utensils and equipment which you use to prepare food. 2-spoon method is used for taste testing. You take the food with 1 spoon, drop it into other spoon, and then do the taste. Okay, you can't take the spoon which you took for taste testing and dip it again in the food. That is like it is like a mode of transmitting infection if at all you are a carrier. Okay, so don't do that. That is a 2-spoon method. Food is held at the proper temperature during storage, and a proper food temperature has to be maintained. We discussed that earlier. That is given in your textbook. Expired products must be immediately separated. Leftovers are discarded within 48 hours. Okay. Food served is always covered individually, or using that plastic sheet which you use to cover the food. Okay. While even if it is an open tray, it should be covered. Refrigerated items are stored in covered containers with labels and dates, so that before expiration you use it up. Dishwasher temperature should be appropriate. And before using the washed dishes and utensils, make sure it is thoroughly dried. Garbage cans, again, in the biomedical waste management we saw, cans should be lined along with the bins. The colors of the bin and the liners should be same. These are the important topics in the food preparation and serving areas. Infection control review. All equipments filters are cleaned weekly. Light bulbs are covered, because if light bulbs have some dust getting stuck to it, you don't want it to affect your food which is being prepared. Hand washing facilities are used for no other purpose. Each hand washing facility includes warm water, soap, and drying method. Floors, walls, ceilings are washable and tolerant of being cleaned. Even it should be the floors, walls, and ceilings, make sure it is fire safe. Okay, it is not made of any combustible materials. Cutting board, meat slicers, openers are free of buildup. On daily basis it should be cleaned, or after every usage it should be cleaned. Refrigerators and freezers are clean and free of ice buildup. Okay, food and chemicals are stored separately. So yeah, the checklist, those who require the checklist, I will send you my WhatsApp number. Please remind me so I can help you out with that. Any doubts in kitchen management? I have put my number in the chat box to those who require the checklist. Checklist, again, I'm saying it is not from, it will be not asked for the examination. But if at all, if you're curious to know about the contents of the checklist, which is used in food safety, please do reach out to me.